Hello, this is Paul Chek. Welcome back to my video blog this week. This month at the Institute is Diet and Lifestyle Management is our theme for the month. My last blog, we looked at how to set your daily schedule up to meet your inner needs, your individual needs. Today we're going to look at what I call your echo. I'm calling it your dream echo, your dream being the thing that motivates you to be your best each day, to change, to grow, to aspire, to care for yourself. The echo is a concept that I created a while back to explain the very important understanding of how the outer world echoes itself in our inner world, and our inner world and our choices echoes itself in our outer world. So for example, if we continue to choose to support major chemical companies and companies like Monsanto to try to make our lives easier, then the echo of that is that we begin to kill nature, and that bounces itself back to us largely in the form of high rates of disease, mental illness, and all the things that we see going on in the world. So today I'm going to share my own very simple system that I teach my students, that I live each day, and that I encourage all of us in the world to practice if we want the world to be a place that is safe for our children today and tomorrow. For those of you wanting more information, this is the cover of my multimedia ebook, The Last 4 Doctors You'll Ever Need, How to Get Healthy Now, which takes you through a very simple step-by-step explanation and process of understanding the 4 doctors, and allows you to create your own core values and set up your own system of self-awareness so that you can manage your 4 doctors, which are Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Movement, and Dr. Happiness, which are the basis of any living philosophy. Any living philosophy that lacks one of those doctors is like a wheel with 4 spokes. If you've got a 4-spoke wheel and you take one out, you don't have a wheel anymore. You have something that's useless or dysfunctional. A tremendous amount more information is available in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. There's a questionnaire in here to help you identify your primal pattern diet or the optimal eating plan for you. I go into these types of things in much greater detail in Holistic Lifestyle Coaching Level 1, 2, and 3. HLC 1 is to help you master the principles in this book and teach you a number of additional things, such as various Tai Chi practices, self-help practices, and how to integrate it all effectively in your life. So with that in mind, let's have a look at what I have in store for you today under the concept of your dream echo. If you look at my board here, I'll orient you. This represents you. It is your mind that makes the choices about how you will live, what you will buy, how you will manage your 4 doctors. And the interesting thing is that the choices that we make in here, as I will show you, have a huge impact on what we see out there as the outside world, as well as having a huge impact on what we perceive and experience as our inside world. So our inner choices not only echo through us as our living experience, but the choices we make on the inside manifest themselves on the outside as either a positive or a negative impact on our environment. So that stated, this is what I call the mirror, and it's really important to grasp the concept that the human being, though we perceive ourselves fairly fixed and static, you look at yourself every day in the mirror, you recognize yourself, but the reality of it is we're constantly changing. We're breathing about 25,900 breaths a day on average. There's tremendous gas exchange with the environment. Water molecules are leaving your body, coming into your body through urination, breath, defecation. Your urine and your feces, if you're a healthy person, are a gift to the outer environment, but if you're an unhealthy person, then they're toxic to the outer environment and they poison the outer environment. So there you can clearly see what you're drinking and eating is actually going out into the environment, and it's either supportive or destructive of the environment. There you can see a simple relationship between the inner and the outer echo. Now, I'm calling this your dream echo because our dream's supposed to be our motive, our overarching goal, dream, or objective for our life. And when we have an overarching goal, dream, or objective that's bigger than our nightmare, we have a reason to pay attention and to participate in our own life and to become aware that the choices we're making for ourselves have a direct impact on what's going on outside of us, which impacts other people and nature itself, which is our mother. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start by looking at the outer echo, and then we'll look at the inner echo, and then I'll show you some simple concepts that you can use to monitor how well your echo is doing. And as I'm about to show you, we've reached a point now where the outer echo is so, shall we say, potentially destructive to our inner echo. We not only have to make adjustments to keep our inner echo healthy and harmonize with our dream, but we now are at a point where we must become immediately aware and proactive with changing our personal behaviors, because all the things that are disruptive to our inner self are now major problems to our outer self. People look at the world and think it's out there, but they forget that what you call yourself in here is really made of everything out there. The air you breathe comes from out there. The water comes from out there. The food comes from out there. The ideas that you use largely come from out there. So if we aren't proactive, pretty soon the out there is going to be so damaging and destructive, we won't have any option for the in here except to watch the cancer rates and disease rates skyrocket even higher than they are. And we're at a point now where even babies are being born with clogged arteries and diseases on a regular basis. We've got extremely high levels of learning disorders in children, energetic disruptions, digestive disorders. We're at a point where we need to really participate in our own lives. And though people run around beating the drum, save the world, as I've said many times before, if you want to save the world, start by saving yourself, because that's the one piece of real estate that you can make changes in. And when you make changes there, everyone around you is influenced because your energy is echoing out. So if you're coherent on the inside, you bring coherence to the outside. If you're joyful on the inside, you bring joy to the outside. If you're aware on the inside, you can share awareness with those outside of you. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are still very distorted on the inside that are really diverting their efforts away from the actual issue to walk around and beat the drum of what's going on the outside. Though that's certainly nice that people do that, the reality of it is most of those people just talk, and never really make any significant changes to support the environment, which is like someone talking about going to Alcoholics Anonymous while they're holding a bottle of beer in their hand or something else. So the outer echo then, first of all, the term echo represents energy, chemistry, hydration, and organisms or organics. So when we use this term echo, we're going to now look at what's going on outside of us from an energy, chemistry, hydration, organics perspective relative to what's going on inside of us. Now, using my 4-doctor model, quiet, movement, happiness, and diet. Happiness relates to your perceptions of yourself and others and what your dream is and how you're going to manage your dream. Movement relates to the movement of thoughts, emotions, and your body. Diet relates to what we feed on. The physical body feeds on food, the emotional body feeds on emotions, and the mental body feeds on thoughts or ideas. So we have 3 levels of, shall we say, diet. Quiet relates to resting. It relates to introspection. It relates to knowing how to manage the outgoing energy relative to the accumulation of energy, like I shared in my previous blog where I outlined a typical day for what my day might look like as an example. So if we look at just the key factors of the living wheel, the philosophical wheel of life, philosophy means love of wisdom, so many people think philosophical means just a bunch of babble written on paper by guys that have nothing to do but sit around, but philosophy means the love of wisdom. So this represents the essential wisdom we have to effectively survive in the world. So if we look at what's going on outside of us that has a direct impact on the inside of us, right away we can say, well, what's the state of happiness of most people? Well, I don't think you need to be a genius to know most people are not very happy. When you consider that something like 98% of Americans are 1 to 2 paychecks from bankruptcy, that's a state of total stress response, alarm, and people in high stress situations don't usually make dream affirmative decisions. They make the same kind of choices they've always made because the stress basically triggers a reptilian brain response and they act out fight, flight, or freeze reactions, none of which are really effective problem solving. High levels of stress hormones hyperactivates the left brain hemisphere, which is the brain hemisphere of doing what you've always done, which isn't going to solve the problem. So we can see that we have got to learn to stay focused on our dream, because the side effects of all this outer chaos and predatory marketing and programming is such that most of us don't have good examples from healthy leaders outside of us. We've got politicians and we've got fake it till you make it wannabes, etc., but very few people of wisdom to help. So we can say we're working against the social mind, especially those of us that are interested in health and well-being. When it comes to quiet, we're in the noisiest world we've ever been in. We have constant pollution from lights, from chemicals, from industry, from people, from automobiles, trains, planes. It's endless. Telephones, televisions, radios, newspapers are full of garbage, etc. So we have quite a lot of work to do in order to create an inner space or an inner sanctum where we can get the nutrition we need from not only being quiet enough to gather energy and produce an anabolic response or a healing response to manage ourselves from day to day, but to have the inner space to come to know ourselves and to monitor our thoughts to see what the unconscious mind is producing, which is extremely important. Your ego is only about 5 to 8% of your conscious perception. So the thing that we call ourselves, like an iceberg, only the tip of an iceberg sticks out of the water. About 85% of an iceberg is under the water. So when we're looking at our unconscious behaviors, we're looking at what is the mind saying and what is the mind choosing in the background below our conscious radar. And you can always tell when your unconscious mind is making choices that you don't want, because things appear in your life and you usually think somebody else did it to you or it's the world's fault. Arnold Patton says, if it's in your life, you know you wanted it. And if you don't think you wanted it, look carefully at the choices you're making unconsciously. And this is very, very true. So we're not really in a good environment these days to get to know our inner thoughts and feelings and edit and program ourselves so that our thoughts and feelings are dream affirmative. You don't need to be a genius to know that we're having lots of problems with the food supply worldwide. A lot of what people are eating today isn't even food. It's synthesized stuff in a laboratory. The whole medical system and nutritional system at large is using synthesized vitamins and processed crap. So again, we have a real dietary problem. Whenever you have a problem with diet in the outer echo, it means you've got to look very carefully at farming tactics. You've got to look very carefully at pest control tactics. You've got to look very, very carefully at the business of food and the ethics and the morals behind the production of food. And if you don't do that, then you will find yourself in a doctor's office getting a diagnosis of something that you don't want to hear, and then all of a sudden you'll be scrambling to try to undo 30 or 40 years worth of ignorance and or, shall we say, passivity, not participating in a rush when you're going to need a lot of energy, a lot of mental clarity, and you're not going to have it. Movement, well, the world's abuzz, and most people do one of two things. They either over-exercise to a detriment, or they don't do enough exercise. Very few people are balanced in their use of movement of emotions, body, and mind. And years ago, I listened to a radio interview with a public health expert named Michael Mogadun, and his research showed that at that time, only 5 to 8% of men worldwide were doing any form of regularly scheduled exercise, and only 3% of women were doing any form of regularly scheduled exercise, and they even included walking a dog as regular exercise. So we must remember that when we're driving down the road on a Saturday or Sunday and we see people playing tennis, golf, and riding their bicycles, it can look in a place like Encinitas, California, or some of the cities with sun, like, wow, a lot of people are exercising. But remember, you could be in a city of 4 million and everyone you're seeing, that's all of them. Whoever you see in the gym and on the road, that's it. If we were all exercising together, it would be a very different environment. So our outer echo provides our energy, our chemistry, our hydration, and the organisms that we eat. So when we look here at energy, we have to look at people in our environment. People are huge balls of energy. The people in your environment are either affirmative and supportive of your dream and your self-management tactics, or they're not. Some of you are going to watch my videos and say, oh, I could never do that. I can't, for example, I have to work shift work and I'm chronically fatigued. And so you can make excuses all you want. But the reality of it is the people here. Maybe you need a new job with a new boss and new people. And if you keep making excuses about what you can't do, you're going to end up getting the echo of your own choices. The work environment. Many of them are very, very energetically unfit. Whether it be the technology that's being used, the equipment that's being used, any form of energy in the environment, which could be chemical energy, it could be bad energy from food being eaten, any number of things. We have outdoor activities. If we're not getting enough outdoor activities, we're going to run into energetic problems. There's many things that we need, such as sunlight, color stimulation, temperature fluctuations, that are all essential to having healthy physiology and keeping our inner body strong to deal with the outer environment. Most people live in air-conditioned, climate-controlled, everything-controlled buildings all day, which is kind of like taking a primal man and sticking him in a 5-star hotel for 5 years and then throwing him back out into the wild and wondering if he could still hunt, fish, build shelter, and care for himself. Well, the truth is he'd probably die from exposure because he would have become so sedentary in that environment, which means we're losing our natural capacity as human beings to interact with and integrate with nature, and therefore our instincts are being shut down, and we don't really know that we need to poop till we haven't pooped for 3 days, or that we need to eat until we've spent 6 hours on a computer surfing websites instead of paying attention to our bodies. So sunlight is a major factor. A lot of people don't get enough. Some people get too much. Electromagnetic frequency pollution is a major, major problem. If you look at the book The Body Electric by Robert O. Becker, you'll see some very shocking information and statistics in there. For example, background electromagnetic pollution has risen over 1,000%, if I remember right, from what it was in the year 1900. And these are major things that affect us. There's lots of research on that. Color stimulation, air quality, and water quality. These are all things that directly relate to our energy as it's coming into our body. If what's coming into you from the outside is not ideal, then there is stress in the process of conversion. So if you're eating too much processed food, and not getting enough exercise and sunlight, the effects of that are going to be that your body is going to be in stress, trying to convert the energy into something that is compatible with your body. And if you don't have the resources to make the transition, then you will end up first tired, then sick, then with a disease. Next, we're going to look at chemistry. When it comes to chemistry, we've got a lot of issues. Research shows that no matter where you're at in the world, even in the most polluted city, inside any building, there is about 10 times more toxicity due to chemical poisoning than outside any building. Even in downtown New York or a dirty city like Denver, Colorado, or Mexico City, you'll be safer outside than you will inside a building. So this outside echo includes the building you're standing in because it's outside of your body. Vehicles. I saw a research report a few years ago that showed the average vehicle, the average new car releases 62,000 carcinogenic chemicals into the inner environment of that car for the first year, and then it progressively drops down due to chemical degradation. Pesticides are a major, major problem. You're being told all sorts of lies by the medical and the chemical systems. If you don't get this magazine, Acres USA, I highly recommend it. It's got a lot of fantastic articles that are geared towards farming, but have a huge impact on your understanding of the outer echo as it relates to the inner, and quite often they even have articles that relate to human health in here. This one features a comprehensive look into pesticides showing that you are being misled. And the article is titled Exposing the Myth of Safe Pesticides, written by an expert who's done extensive research, and you can access his book through there. We've got work-related chemistry problems. For example, many of us work with chemicals. Think if you ever walked into a nail salon, the smell in there, or a hair salon, the chemicals in there are enough to kill you. If you're an auto mechanic or someone that works with solvents all day, washing engine parts or making jewelry or working in a factory, if you just looked at all the work-related chemical issues, there's a ton of it. Plastics are killing us. Xenoestrogens are molecules from plastic that are highly disruptive to our hormonal system and mimic estrogens, but don't trigger the same functions as estrogen, so it leads to cellular confusion and all sorts of disruptions with hormonal cycles, menstrual cycles, and leads again to millions, if not billions of dollars being made as a side effect of environmental toxicity. So people not paying attention to these kinds of things keep running to doctors to get pills, but don't realize all the while they're still using plastics for water, plastics wrapped, food wrapped in plastics, cooking plastic, putting things in plastic and styrofoam in microwave ovens, which is a death sentence. Body care products are some of the most toxic products in the world, and it's one of the most poorly regulated industries. If you look at a lot of body care products, are made directly from tar oil derivatives, just like gasoline and engine oil. So if you're not spending money on high quality organic body care products, and you're using your typical underarm deodorants, toothpaste, hair shampoos, centers, you're killing yourself. And you're also supporting every one of the companies that's destroying nature while doing it. And some of you are walking around beating the drum, save the environment, while spending money on the very things that are destroying the environment, which is why I say start here before you masquerade out there. Okay? So next we look at hydration. We've got lots of trouble with our water supply. Research shows that there's pretty much no longer any water in the world that does not have dangerous chemicals to be found in it. Many of the chemicals cannot be filtered out of water. So we have to look at water source. We have to look at types of filtration. We have to remember that drug residues have been shown to be impossible to filter out of water. And research that I had in my book, Under the Veil of Deception, What Uncle Sam Isn't Telling You About Organic Food and Organic Farming, which I no longer sell. But I found research from Europe showing that not only are our rivers, lakes, and streams full of medical drugs, but the bacteria often converts them from the inactive to the active form. So when you take a drug and pee it out, it's typically in an inactive form, but the researchers found that the bacteria in rivers, lakes, and streams convert those molecules back to the active form, and their concern was that every single living creature in the waters, lakes, streams, rivers, and oceans is now on all the drugs that we're taking at dangerous levels. So it's one thing to eat toxic food, but it's another thing to eat drugged out, confused food, because that's what you get inside of yourself. We've got to look at, again, storage of water in plastics and other containers that are toxic, such as can liners and things like that. And we also have to look at the kinds of energy that we're getting in water. If you look in the science of water, water has an infinite capacity to remember any form of energy that's imprinted into it, every surface, every chemical it's ever came into contact with. Because water has such a massive capacity for memory, it's one of the reasons it is used as the hard drive for the Cray supercomputer, which is supposed to be the most powerful computer in the world. So they're now using water as a hard drive, which should let you know that when you're drinking water, you're drinking whatever it's come into contact, and it can remember the energy imprint of anything. Therefore, you must become conscious about what you are drinking, where it's coming from, and the things you can do to enhance it so that it is more compatible with your physiology. When it comes to organisms, we all have to have organisms to live. Plants are organisms. Animals are organisms. The bacteria and the microorganisms that we bring into our bodies from food, water, air, and related are all organisms that either help us or disrupt us. Parasite infections deal with organisms. Fungal infections deal with organisms. Bacterial dysbiosis deals with organisms. Viruses deals with something that's kind of not really an organism, but can cause real problems for organisms if you don't have a strong enough immune system to protect yourself. So when we look at the 4 doctor influences that society and culture have manufactured in nature by injecting our inner ideas of what we think should be going on, based largely on how to make money and not much else, you can see that the social 4 doctor is threatening nature. Therefore, it's threatening ourselves. And we have got to work collectively to balance our social-cultural ideas of what is important in nature and what needs to change for the benefit of our future, our children's future, and literally our survival, period. Okay? So now when it comes to your own inner echo, you consider everything I've just said over here. You have got to make the daily choices to manage your energy, your chemistry, your hydration, and your organisms. And your dream is what Dr. Happiness operates on. And once you're clear what your dream is, then, as I show you in my 4 Doctors ebook and in my Holistic Lifestyle Training programs in greater depth, how you manage your quiet, your movement, and your diet determines whether or not you're a healthy, productive, creative, happy individual with a healthy capacity for sex energy, whether that be for making love or just being creative and novel problem solving, or whether you're trapped in yourself and running around hoping somebody will fix you, which largely doesn't work. So all those things about energy apply inside you, all those things about chemistry. When it comes to your own chemistry, the most important thing you can do is look at your primal pattern eating. What are my unique individual needs? Having a closed-ended philosophy such as I'm a vegan, or I'm a vegetarian, or I'm a whatever. Whenever you have an ism, you have usually got fanaticism, and a fanatic is not somebody that you should put a lot of stock into, because to the degree one is fanatical, it also means that they're blind of the holistic truth of life and are probably not listening to their body and I can tell you that's usually the case because I have rehabilitated more vegetarian yogis and Rastafarians and everything else than you can imagine who have given themselves diseases using methods that may once have helped them but were abused. So we have to look at what are our individual needs with an open-minded philosophy and stop playing games. As I'll show, all you got to do is look in the mirror of self and it's right there for you. Hydration, we need to be careful to make sure that we're filtering water. If you have a home filtration system, you can't choose a filtration system effectively until you've had the water tested because you've got to know what's in the water that you need to filter out. There's as many types of water filters as there is makeup for women. Salt, high quality sea salt added to water helps bring the mineral content up. Minerals are very important for regulating hormonal functions and other functions in the body. And the salt also helps balance the water. One, it improves the pH of the water for it's more favorable, more alkaline. And two, when we have salt in the water, it gives it mouthfeel and it reduces the likelihood that you're going to urinate too much. If you get water that does not have enough minerals, it can actually have a negative effect on your body. For example, drinking distilled water can leach minerals right out of your body and lead to spontaneous cracking of teeth. So we need to be aware of what the body needs, and by putting a little bit of salt and experimenting, you can learn to listen to your body and it will guide you. You should never taste the salt and water, by the way. It should only be there as background support. Then we've got to look at energizing the water. If you look at the book Blueprint for Immortality by Harold Saxon Burr, a Yale professor who wrote this book in about 1947, you will see what was probably a mind-blowing study at the time, because if it was published today it would still blow people's minds. Harold Saxon Burr took plants of the same genus, broke them into two groups, little seedlings. He then took a mason jar of water and gave mason glass jars of quart jars of water, had all of his students hold on to the water for 3 or 4 hours, and he took another batch of glass jars to a psych ward where people were in the hospital for psychological diseases, and he got them to hold on to the water. He then took the water to the laboratory. He watered one batch of plants with the water held by psychologically ill people, and he watered the other batch of plants with water held by his students. And when you look at the picture of how the plants grew and how deformed they were, how sick they were, and how many of them wouldn't even grow toward the sun, they often turned down toward the earth, those plants all were watered with the water held by psychologically ill people. Why is that important? Water has an infinite capacity for memory. Water has an infinite capacity to absorb energy. And when you're a body made of water and you're drinking water, you cannot control the kind of energy that got into your water. And I'm telling you, water carries psychic energy. So what you can do is you can bless your own water. You can put your own love, your own intention, hold it to your heart, fill it with your love, and that will be the most dominant harmonizing influence. And anytime we use love with the intention to support our dream, we're not only a gift to ourselves, we're a gift to the world. And the harmony of one's love can overpower and organize the chaos, the energetic chaos in water, in my experience of doing extensive research in my own life and with my students on this. So there are things that you can do. But again, they require an open mind. When it comes to organics and eating organisms that are, shall we say, pro-health, we have to look carefully at our morals and our values. A moral is a code of conduct that is life affirmative. So morals are established to enhance our likelihood of surviving and thriving, both as individuals and as societies and cultures together. Values relate to the choices we make. I don't care what you tell me your values are, all I got to do is follow what you spend your money on. And unfortunately, you see there's usually a huge mismatch between people's stated values and what they actually invest money, which is energy, into. Like I said, don't beat the drum of save the trees. If you're buying Roundup and Kellogg's Corn Flakes and cheap commercial makeup and eating garbage from food manufacturers that don't even list on the label the toxins and the crap that's in there, because you're playing a very dangerous and silly game. So when we look at all this, the body's constantly giving us a feedback. We're like an echo chamber. Our thoughts, our emotions, and our choices create the inner energy, chemistry, hydration, and organics environment. That's either going to be harmonizing the outer environment, acting as a healing force, or it's going to be mirroring the outer environment, which in a human body is trouble today. The information is always there for us, 24/7, being fed back to us. So my triangle here is a system that I developed for helping people determine balance. If your pendulum's hanging in the middle, you would be following, as a metaphor, the Tao, the middle way, or Zen, the most efficient way. So the Zen way is down the middle. The Taoist way is down the middle. If you have an excess, then you're going to be not in homeostasis, which means functional balance. You're going to be in allostasis. The medical word allostasis means that you are being stretched. Your body is responding to a significant stressor. For example, if you're riding down the road on your bicycle and you're going straight down the road and everything's hunky-dory, you're in homeostasis. But if you're not paying attention, you hit a rock, fly off your bike, hurt your neck, skin your knees and your elbows, your whole body goes into allostasis. If you don't have the energetic reserves and nutrition on board, it might take you the rest of your life to recover from a bicycle fall. Yet somebody who's healthy can race motorcycles, ride horses, fall off of skis, surfboards, and they heal quickly because their dream and their lifestyle management give them the nutrition and the resources and the energy and the chemistry and the hydration of the organisms to heal quickly and respond favorably to stay in tune with their dream. So homeostasis is balance, the Zen way or the Taoist way. Allostasis means I'm out of balance. Can I recover effectively? If you're out of balance and you can't respond to allostasis, you have fatigue first, then illness, then disease, then death. So what are the things that we can look at in the mirror of self on a daily basis? We can look at our energy levels. Are we getting enough quiet? Remember, sleep is the cheapest, most powerful form of energy we can get to heal our bodies. It's highly an anabolic process. The mind shuts down. We get away from our story for a little while every night, and we get the biggest bang for no dollars invested right there. So if your sleep quality is poor, your energy quality is probably going to be poor, which means you need to look at Dr. Quiet. Look at the quality of your skin. The skin cells turn themselves over about every 3 days, so you can see very rapid changes in the skin. If you eat something that your body doesn't like, often it starts coming right out of the skin. Look at bowel movements. In my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, there's a nice little chart in there. I think I've shown that to you before, that shows the poopy policeman. And here you can see the big basketball player poops, the schedule for pooping. And here's the pooping lineup showing you all the different poops that are common to people and what their meanings are and how to adjust your diet and lifestyle issues in order to bring your bowel movements back online. Remember, your intestinal tract's like a living garden within you, and your poop is like the product of the garden. A healthy intestinal tract produces healthy poop, which is a gift to Mother Nature. An unhealthy body produces toxic, unhealthy poop, which is toxic to Mother Nature. So if your stink is something that is repulsive to you, it's repulsive to the outer echo and not contributing to balance. If your bowel movements aren't shaped properly, don't float right, etc., etc., you got immediate feedback. You don't need to go to running around to doctors. All you got to do is pay attention. Most people are, oh, I don't want to look at my poop. Well, if you don't want to look at your poop, you don't want to look at your life, you might as well just go check yourself into a mental hospital now. Look at your digestion and your elimination. Most people have digestion and eliminative problems because they're not managing their mind, focusing on the dream, and they're eating crap that can't be digested or eliminated. and is screwing up the balance of the autonomic nervous system, and most people are dehydrated. About 90-95% of the world population is dehydrated. So, as you can see, most of these things are quite simple. Are you having too much mental activity or not enough? Are you anxious, hyperactive, and suffering from perpetual monkey mind? Or are you lethargic, lazy, or apathetic? Either of those would represent an echo that is giving you information that you can do something about, and most of the things that ultimately need to be done to correct that are things that you could do on your own with simple participating in your 4 doctors and your own life. But people want to run out and pay doctors to give them pills so they can keep living like fools and wonder why they don't have perfect boobs, a nice ass, 6-pack abs, money in the bank, and their dream partner, which is really foolish. We got to look at how well we recover from exercise. If we are living in balance with the outer and inner echoes, then we can do quite a bit of exercise. A healthy human being has a very high work output. Look around at all the things our ancestors built, from pyramids to cities to you name it, with a lot of manual labor and obviously a high level of intelligence. We cannot build a pyramid today. We don't have the technology to do it today. So you have to ask yourself, is there not an indication there that the people of our past were in some way a lot better put together than we like to admit that they would have been based on scholarly estimates? In other words, people think if you were on this planet 10,000 years ago, you were just some kind of a caveman idiot. Well, I think that the cavemen idiots looking at us today would have the same idea in reverse. How's your sexual performance? How's your sex drive? Do you have a healthy natural interest in sex? These are all major indicators. Your sexual energy is an expression of your creative energy. To be sexual is an act of creativity. Most people's sex lives are as boring as reading the Bible, and most people's dogmas around sex are only mere images of all the kind of silliness going out here. So look at your sex life, because it's an expression of your creativity. Are you being creative in your life? Are you participating in new and interesting things, trying new things? Art, hiking, getting outdoors, parachuting, canoeing, kayaking, having a relationship with the outer echo. Once you go out and interact with nature, you not only realize what it does in you, but you realize what it does for you. And there's a myriad of ways we can really enjoy ourselves out there and come to appreciate the value and the importance of loving and caring for the planet as essential for our own health and dream creation. Remember, you are what you eat, and you are what you don't excrete. So you could be eating good organic food, but you may have unresolved toxicity issues. You could have unresolved mental, emotional biases towards ex-husbands, ex-boss, your father that abused you, your mother that abused you. All of that causes retention. If you want to be angry at somebody, you must retain the anger, and your organs and tissues will mirror the mental, emotional thought, leading to things like constipation, disrupted bowel rhythms, etc., etc. So not only are you what you eat, you are what you do not excrete, and a huge part of balancing your echo is cleansing ourselves at the mental, emotional, and physical level. Most people are happy to take colon kits and do all this physical stuff, but forget that all that physical stuff is the byproduct of the mental, emotional stuff that led to the choices in the first place. So that's my little presentation on my echo concept. I will close by saying the mirror is active 24 hours a day. You have 4 essential principles for a living philosophy that not only work in your life, but they work in nature, and to the degree we disrupt them out here, we disrupt them here. To the degree we're not balanced here, we do damaging things out here, and though our short-sightedness may not make us aware of our future, for example, driving around a Hummer and gas-guzzling cars and just wasting energy and burning up fossil fuels and not using free energy technologies and participating in governmental silliness ultimately means that the future for our children and the rest of the people on the planet is looking uglier than you can imagine, because as David Suzuki says, we're at a tipping point. We're at 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds of humanity's survival on the planet. If we don't get together and start participating together and respecting, loving, and caring for the garden called the planet that gives us a body and a place to live, grow, and find out who and what we really are spiritually. So I'm into it. I hope you're into it. Remember, I'm not here to do scare tactics. I'm just here to say, let's wake up. The evidence is not only around you, it's in you. And the first thing you do to make the world a better place is get yourself clear on what your dream is so you have a motive for change. And then eat, move, and be healthy. I will see you hopefully at HLC 1 so we can really get into the practice of this. Feel free to go to the Chek Institute website, chekinstitute.com, CHEK Institute.com. Have a look at our advanced training programs. It's a multidisciplinary approach. I don't care if you're a truck driver, a housewife, or a medical doctor. If you're interested in loving and caring for yourself as a gift to the world, I'm interested in supporting you, as are all my instructors who are truly masters of their craft. Thanks for joining me today.